So if you came to this video from my TikTok, you are here because you want the more in-depth version of Karen's biological father. So here you go. I met Sam my junior year of high school. He moved to our town due to his family and started school. He and I sat together in a lot of classes. That's just how we managed. We always sat next to one another by coincidence, not on purpose. And at first, I thought he was really annoying. And then as time went by, we actually became friends, and I eventually realized that I had feelings for him. And I think we both knew that we had feelings for one another, but at the same time, my late husband and I have known each other since we were toddlers, family friends, and we had dated on and off, like since middle school. And junior year, he and I were off, but we had never really dated anybody else. It was just kind of a known thing that he and I were on and off, but we would eventually be on again. And junior year of high school, we never saw each other. Like we knew that it wasn't the best time. We saw each other like when our family got together, but we both were really busy with academics and all that stuff. But Sam and I spent a lot of time together, and Sam was like my other half in such a good way. He brought out such a good part of me. And I loved that. I love spending time with him. I would see him at parties. We'd go to parties. But again, nothing ever happened. He knew that I was with a guy on and off. And he never acted on anything. So we left it at that. Well, senior year rolls around, and me and my late husband are seeing each other a lot more and started dating again. Which again, at that time, it wasn't uncommon. Right after high school, my late husband proposed, and I said yes, as once again, that's literally, since we were toddlers, that was what was expected of us. So we were gonna live the American dream. My late husband was gonna get a job. I was gonna stay home with our children that I was gonna have, whole 9 yards. Wow. A few weeks before we were going to get married, I went to a party. My late husband was out of town for something, and I was with some of my girlfriends. We were at a party, and Sam was there with some of his friends. Again, not unusual. It was a small town. And I had too much to drink. Sam offered to take me home. I, of course, said yes. But when we got in his truck, he was like, I don't think I'm good to drive. And I was like, all right, well, I guess we can go back in the house. And he's like, well, I got, it's a nice night out and I have some blankets. Like, why don't we just sit and gaze at the stars? It's one of my favorite pastimes. So I'm like, okay. So we're sitting out and we're just talking about life. He's talking about his family business that he's about to get into, and that he's really excited and he's got a lot of potential. And again, we had been drinking and the drinks were setting in more and more. And we eventually got into the conversation about us and why there never was us. And one thing led to another. We had a drunken night. Woke up the next morning in the back of his pickup truck with him and made him take me home and never speak of that night. A couple weeks later, I got married to my late husband. Nobody knew that I knew of until a few weeks later when my late husband found out about my drunken night with Sam because somebody saw us in the back of the truck. I don't know why they waited until afterwards. I don't know why they said anything, but Sam and I had a huge fight. We almost, after a few weeks of marriage, he basically said, we can either get a divorce or you can never see Sam again. And at the time, like, if we had gotten a divorce, it would have been a whole scandal, and I would have looked awful, and I could not have done that. I couldn't have done it to me. I couldn't have done it to my family. So I promised to never see Sam. If I walked into a grocery store and saw him, I had to leave, which didn't last for very long because Sam ended up skipping town anyway because of his family business. And a few weeks after I had gotten married to my late husband and he found out, I found out that I was pregnant with Karen. When I found out and I told my late husband, he never once questioned whether it was his or not. I don't know if he was afraid to or he just assumed it was his. but we never talked about Sam again after that argument. So when Karen was born, Sam and my late husband look a little similar. So he has a lot of, Karen has a lot of my features, mainly, but a lot of mannerisms of me, and does look somewhat like her, like my late husband. But yeah, we never once questioned it. And I never saw Sam again. There were many times that I thought about reaching out to him, but I was happy. I was living the American dream with my husband and my 2 beautiful daughters, and he went off and married somebody and had 3 kids and was living his life, and tragically passed away in a car accident a few years ago. So I unfortunately never saw Sam after he skipped town. And then my late husband passed away. And then my grandchildren did this ancestry test, which I wish I had known about beforehand. And we found out that Karen was Sam's. There's nothing I can do about it. I know they're upset. Was I right? No. Was I afraid to lose my marriage and everything because of the small town and the small town talks? Yeah. So there's your story.